What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 11 betting preview. Today, we're going to build our Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help, of course, of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey. Good to see you get off the schneid last week. Nice week. Hit your first two picks, hit your total. So good stuff, brother. I gotta get right because now I'm kind of lagging behind you. So, but good week. How you feeling?
Yeah, I could finally show up without egg on my face for once. Yeah, Thursday night went well again with the Bengals. That was a crazy game.
Woo,
It,
yeah.
yeah, Texans fortunately held on. That game
Oh my
didn't go to
God.
overtime because yeah, I haven't been able to get an injury right all week. Nico Collins wasn't able to go. They sorely missed him. But yeah, I thought that you were pretty unlucky though. I mean, the Colts just gifted the Bills so many points in that game. It was insane. And then the 49ers should have won by about 30 in that game. That was one of the most dominant efforts of the season. If you just look at the stats and obviously they missed all of those field goals. And so I thought you got pretty unlucky. I will say not still an unacceptable week for me because I bet the Jets. Probably the worst bet I've made in the NFL in my life. That was dominant. I can't figure out the Cardinals. The Cardinals with one of the most dominant performances. Like that's what the 49ers game should have looked like. Just like statistically, if you look at the box score, somehow the 49ers only won by 3. Um, the Cardinals were a wagon. That was that at least last week they were. That was as humiliating of a loss as you'll see. Every time they snap the ball, it was a first down. Okay, they never had to go to third down. Jets couldn't do anything. So that was a horrible pick. But yeah, it's it's time to get hot. So hopefully we can carry over the momentum the rest of the year.
All right, let's start with Thursday night football. Got a good game this
3 good
week.
games this week, by the way. Last week the games were so bad. Like from Ravens Bengals was great, and then oh my God, it was so boring on Sunday and Monday. This week we got this game that we're talking about in a second, and then Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens, Steelers. So 3 really good games because there's just, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying before. There's just so many bad teams this year. I mean, the AFC, almost half the AFC is in a state of disarray. Colts, Patriots, Browns, Jets, Titans, Jaguars, Raiders. Like, where are those teams headed right now? But this week, we get like 3 playoff caliber games, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, and the one on Thursday night, Commanders at Eagles. Eagles favored by 3.5. The total is 48.5. Looks like Washington's going to be without its kicker, Austin Seibert. Again, still no Marshawn Lattimore. Philly looks like they'll be close to full strength. I think Devontae Smith and Goddard were both on the injury report, but looks like they're going to go.
Mayada probably be back to at left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, I never this year with injuries until I'm certain, you never know. But yeah, we're recording this about a 24-ish hours, 20, maybe a little more than 24 hours before kick. So we'll see about that. But yeah, Philadelphia stuck. We talked about this team a few weeks ago, and I mentioned they kind of feel like a sleeping giant, and because their defense with those 2 rookie corners has just started to play lights out in that Fangio scheme. Now, no one's really been able to slow down Jaden Daniels. I mean, Pittsburgh, you could say they did. I mean, they gifted him a short field, but they still scored 27 on him. So I'm not going to count that as shutting him down. Do you think this Eagle defense can get some stops against this Washington offense? I think that's the first question.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see some signs of the Commanders' offense just slowing down a bit. And they played a really easy schedule of defenses. Like the best defense that they've played this year is, I mean, if you account for injuries too, so they played a lot of teams that have had some key injuries on defense, like the Bears. They only scored 18 points. But I mean, last week against the Steelers, Daniels, 17 of 34 for 202 yards. Washington, 22 rushes for 60 yards. They didn't do much in that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's more tape. Maybe Cliff's starting to slow down as he usually does. And the schedule of opposing defenses is getting a bit tougher these past 2 weeks. So yeah, I think this Eagles defense is still undervalued in the market. Like I think that they've reached that point where the the Fangio effect, that learning curve has kind of flipped. And you could say that the Eagles haven't really played anybody, right? If you look at their schedule too. I mean, this is the problem with the NFL. You can make cases against so many teams this year because there's been so many injuries. There are so many bad teams that it's hard to take one team and be like, you know what? They've played a really hard schedule and have looked impressive. Like you can poke holes in so many different schedules. So like if you look, the Eagles have played of late when you've seen this defensive surge, they played the Jags, the Cowboys with Cooper Rush, the Giants who didn't have their left tackle and it's Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson. But the data point that gives me a lot of confidence is the Bengals one when they went to Cincy and they completely shut down the Cincinnati offense on the road. I mean, Cincy had under 3 yards per carry. Burrow threw it 37 times for 222 yards. So that gives me confidence that this defense is trending up. And by the way, I think I told you it was I called it. I always said Dejan. I heard
it's
on this
yeah.
mic'd up. Someone was like singing to him. One of the was like Dejan. I forget what, but I think it is Dejan. He's both their rookie corners are playing really well. So yeah, I think the Philly defense can hold its own here. I make this around 3.5-ish. By the way, like home field advantage this year is playing around, I don't know, 0.7, 0.8 overall on average.
Less than a point.
Yeah, for what it's worth. Again, small sample size, but we know that it's going to be trending down, and that's where it's heading. I actually would look. My look here, I make it around 3.5. I would lean Eagles just because I think that they're healthier. I think the D is still undervalued. They're also just with AJ Brown, they're a different team. I mean, they're averaging 30 points per game with AJ Brown. They're 6-0 in those games. They're only averaging 17 without him. They're 1-2. So I think the offense is a bit undervalued as well. But so I would lean the Eagles, but I would definitely need 3 to play it. I think my look here in this game is the under. It does hurt that Lattimore's not playing. He would be helpful against Brown in particular. But I think this will be a slower pace game, a run-heavy game. And I just mentioned one of the reasons I was on that Dallas under last week is I thought the Eagles' defense was undervalued. And again, injuries never worked. Everyone ended up playing in that game. Like all the receivers.
Yeah, I think Goddard caught a touchdown.
Goddard, probably CeeDee Lamb was in there, but luckily the Cowboys couldn't do anything.
And Trey Lance.
Yeah, the game got shut down. Got a bit fortunate there. But yeah, I think slower pace game, divisional game with big implications. I think you could see both teams a bit tight early. But the Washington defense is definitely playing better. And I think that this Eagles defense will hold its own. So I think that like the way that this game sets up and how it's going to be played pace-wise, how rush heavy it'll be. And then you got to take into account Washington's injuries along the offensive line. Not sure what the statuses are, who's going to go, but they have a number of guys that are banged up. Even if they do go, might not be 100%. So the protection, which has been much better than anticipated, especially if they're down a couple guys or up front on a short week, that's not ideal. So that could hurt the Washington offense. So yeah, 48.5 divisional game outdoors. I think the look here is the under.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those games where, I've been loving Philly, but at 3.5, it almost feels like you take Washington, and at 3, it feels like you take Philly. That's just kind of how I would play it. I don't really see an edge, too big of an edge on either side. I still want to see this Eagles defense go against this kind of offense. You know, they went against a Joe Burrow offense, which is very impressive, but it's not, the quarterback's not moving around like this, you know, because all your coverage, I mean, yeah, Terry McLaurin, but after that, like, what are you wasting? You know, it doesn't matter if you're lights out against Noah Brown. It's not hard, you know, unless you're the Chicago Bears, you're not giving up a ton of production to Noah Brown anyway. So this could still be a pretty close game, but like you said, some of the things for Washington are just kind of trending the wrong direction. Like, you're without your kicker, short week. You're without some, you know, your old line is a little banged up. These things just on a short week, for a young, you know, team, young offense, not the greatest look. And Wiley and Lucas did get a limited practice in, and so did Colvin. So they all their tackles did practice on a limited basis, for what it's worth. So that is a good sign. But still, you know, kicker out, you still don't have that Lattimore help, and this I still think this team is due for more regression. So yeah, I probably lean under as well. Don't like either side with the line at 3.5. All right. Let's go to the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack. All right. So we went 3-3 in Week 10. For those new to the show, thank you for listening. And Stuckey and I do 2 points each for our first 2 picks, a point for the third, and a point for the total in the next segment. Start out in the hole, Stuck, but you picked up a couple points on me last week, so it's 36-22. So you need a couple sweeps and me to go cold like I've been for the last couple of weeks, but it's far from over. You are up first this week, and you had a pick that I was going to take. So why don't you tell the listeners?
Yeah, last year around this time I was down 11, so
not that bad.
It's doable. There's still like 14 weeks left, including the playoffs.
Yeah, we got playoffs.
But I don't want to catch you. I just want to get hot, and then you get hot again, and the show does well. So let's just both get hot. I'm going to kick things off for the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack with the Cleveland Browns plus 1.5 at the New Orleans Saints. Let's start off with, we've been talking about, I mean, this has been one of the oddest injury years I can ever remember. I've been in the NFL for 20 years. Like, just how the sheer amount of like key injuries, but then just like which guys go and which guys don't end up going. Very bizarre. Do you want to know an injury report that I can have confidence in this week? The Cleveland Browns. You know who's on the injury report today at practice? Nobody.
No one.
0. Clean bill of health,
Nice.
Which is pretty amazing in Week 11. Defense obviously doesn't have JOK. Their star linebackers on IR, and then they traded Za'Darius to the Lions. But other than that, they're fully healthy. They're coming off of a bye, should be healthier. Their secondary had some guys that have been banged up. Their offensive line now fully healthy. Nick Chubb, I think, will really benefit from the extended rest, and he was just kind of ramping up to full speed. That's important because you can run on this Saints team, and this is a Saints team that is beat up. You want to talk about an injury report? I mean, there's no receivers. The secondary's beat up. They even had some, their offensive line isn't at full strength. Talked about this last week, and look, I had the Saints last week. Figured they'd come out with the new coach bump with a ton of energy and effort, and they did. But they also got a bit fortunate in that game. Koo missed 3 field goals. They got a couple other 4th down stops in their own territory. And how sustainable is throwing bombs to MVS? I'm not sure. And the difference, and one of the reasons that I was on the Saints last week, is I assumed Carr would have time to make plays. And he ultimately did, because the Falcons just can't generate any pressure. Well, that won't be the case here. You'll have a Browns team, top 5 in the league in pressure rate. this is a team. You're going to have Myles Garrett going up against a rookie for most of the game. Carr's going to be under pressure. Carr's numbers, when kept clean, versus under pressure, night and day. And I mean, who's he throwing to? There's just not a lot of options here. Browns off a bye. I expect them to be focused here. Why? Like, their season's pretty much over. It's Jameis going back to New Orleans. You know he's going to have this team fired up. But and look, they're going to be able to get Chubb going. This Saints defense is extremely vulnerable. You can attack them in various ways, but I think the Browns will be able to get their run game going, which will set up the pass for Jameis. You just have to hope that he doesn't make too many mistakes. But I expect Carr to be under pressure, probably make a key mistake or two. Browns, they have one interception on the year. If you look at like their passes defensed, there's some regression coming. They're going to start to force some more turnovers. So healthy Browns team off the bye. Jameis going back to New Orleans. I'm sure he'll be giving all kinds of crazy speeches, getting this team fired up. But expect Stefanski will have a good script. And there was nothing I saw with the Saints that they were doing anything drastically different last week. They got a bit fortunate. Came a lot of energy. Nothing really sustainable. They're just so beat up. And yeah, so I like the Browns here on the road, catching 1.5. I think they should be a favorite.
Yeah, I like this. I would have taken this if you hadn't. I think that the market is still looking at this Cleveland team as, kind of the team it's been for most of the year, the Deshaun Watson version, with all of the injuries all over the place. Even with trading Smith and, JOK on IR, I think this defense is still a lot closer to where it was last year. Now that it's healthy, same thing for the offensive line. And
the Browns defense is the best unit on the field, even without Smith and JOK.
Yeah. And remember that on offense, it's not just Jameis. They started to go try to run the more of the Stefanski offense, and he also gave up play calling. So it's like a lot of changes happened in the last few weeks for this Browns team.
Offensive line too. I mean, they were down 3 starters at times, and now they're as healthy as they've been. I mean, they're gonna be able to run block, and they're gonna be able to give Jameis time here.
Yeah, no, this is this Saints team. I mean, it's not much different than the Saints team that was, catching 3.5 at home to the Atlanta Falcons a week ago that just lost 6-7 in a row before that. This is still that Saints team, just because they got a win under their interim head coach. It's not much different, but this Browns team is different. So yeah, I think the market is kind of out of sight, out of mind too. They're coming off the bye, which is also an edge. So yeah, I like the Browns as well. For my first pick and the second overall of the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals plus 1.5 at the Los Angeles Chargers. And for me, a couple of things here. First is when I look at this Bengal offense going against this Charger defense, which the metrics are very good for the Charger defense, but
who have they played?
Right. Tennessee. So we got Will Levis, Jameis Winston, Spencer Rattler, the Cardinals, which are good. I'll give the Cardinals credit because they look on point for now. And then, Bo Nix, injured KC in the game where Rashee Rice went down and they still didn't have Hopkins and Kelsey wasn't right yet. The Justin Fields Steelers offense, Bryce Young, and the Gardner Minshew Raiders offense. So they've really played nobody like this passing wise, because even Arizona's strength is its run game. Kyler's playing well, but lower volume for Kyler this year. Joe Burrow just put up 679 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception over the last 2 games, 4 sacks for 15 yards in those 2 games combined. And this is with offensive line. This is with tackle issues and no T. Higgins. He's doing this. So I think this Charger defense could have a little bit of a shock to the system here. The Chargers, one thing we know is they love to sit back in zone coverage. They play zone at a top 5 rate. Joe Burrow, 2.2 more yards per pass attempt against zone coverage than against man coverage. Jamar Chase has been tearing up zone this year, over 3 yards per route run. So this is going to be a shootout, if most likely, because the Chargers offense is looking better and it is healthier. with Johnson coming back, Gus Edwards coming back, but that I don't really trust the Chargers to kind of run away with this game at all because the Chargers still going to run the football. So I think the Bengals can win a shootout here. And Joe Burrow as a dog, 19-9 against the spread in his career, 13-5, 72% as a road underdog, covering by an average of 4.6 points per game. And when he's on the road off a loss, 13-3 against the spread, 81%, covering by an average of 4.8 points per game. So Bengals, they'll be desperate here. I think Chargers, just a little bit of a shock to the system defensively. I do think it's a good defense, but they get no pressure. They're 31st in pressure rate, and they just haven't played a passing game like this. So give me the Bengals on the road.
Is Higgins going to be back?
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, he could be, but I'm acting as if he's not. Like I don't think he is.
But I like this. I'll have another take on this game later, but I will say this: a little bonus bet here is I think I'm going to bet the Bengals 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. Here's my reasoning. If you look at the AFC, I mean, it's extremely weak. I just listed 7 teams that are in disarray. I don't see the Colts making the playoffs. So who's going to get that 7th spot? Because if you look and you assume that the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, who am I missing?
The Chargers, maybe?
Well, I'll get to that. So Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Texans. Yeah, that's 5. So, even if you throw the Chargers in there, there's a 7th spot that's going to go to either the Broncos, the Bengals, or the Colts. I don't see it with the Colts. And here's the thing. If the Bengals win this game, they also get the Broncos at home later this year. So they would have tiebreakers over, 2 of the teams that they're fighting with, 2 of the main teams they're fighting with for that last wild card. And, their other games are the Titans, the Browns at home, the Cowboys without Dak. They host the Steelers next week. So again, they could pick up a tiebreaker there. And the reason, so this game is big. So I want to bet the Bengals. I probably will bet them small, but I'm also going to bet them in the Super Bowl. This is kind of like when I bet the Bills last year at 50-1. And I mean, look how close they came. It was at the bottom, because if you look at those teams in the AFC, who are the only teams that I think could beat the Chiefs in the playoffs? I mean, I think the Ravens could. I think the Bills could. Potentially the Texans, if they get healthy. You're going to have to score. You need an elite quarterback to get through the AFC. And the Bengals. The Bengals have done it before. The Bengals should have won in Kansas City earlier this year when they weren't even fully healthy. Like, Burrow is one of those guys that if he gets into the AFC playoffs, that can get through this AFC. Like, the Broncos aren't, the Colts aren't, but if the Bengals can get in, I mean, this is a team that's been so unlucky. Like, they should have won, they could have easily won at Baltimore, should have won at Kansas City. And how many gut punch losses? And you got to remember that
both Baltimore games, both Baltimore games, they should have won.
Yeah, they should have won.
Yeah, so they almost beat essentially the best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, they go almost
1 point loss to KC, 1 point loss to Baltimore, and a missed field goal in overtime, 3-point loss to Baltimore. So that's how close they are.
Yeah. So and their defense is better than the metrics because they had so many injuries. And if they get Brown back, if they get Higgins back, this is a big game for that. So
yeah.
I think I want to get out in front of that and bet some Bengals Super Bowl futures.
I like it.
All right, for my second pick and the 3rd overall, the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I am going with the Denver Broncos -2.5 at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Going back to the Falcons fade train, I was super impressed with Bo Nix last week, going up against a really tough defense in a tough environment. I just thought that he looked as competent and as comfortable as he did, as he has all season, just given the circumstances. And here are the circumstances this week. You're going up against a Falcons defense that can't get pressure, a Falcons defense that you can run on. Bo Nix will be able to operate a clean pocket. Sean Payton will be able to implement whatever he really wants to and can run his offense in an efficient manner here. And not only do the Falcons not get pressure, they're going up against the Broncos offensive line that ranks #1 pass block win rate on the year. I think the Broncos can efficiently move the ball all day. Go on the other side of the ball. The Falcons, in control of their division, going outdoors to Denver, non-conference game. That sense of urgency might not be there, but more importantly, Denver can get pressure, and they're going to bring the blitz, and that's how you have to throw Cousins off. So on one side, I have Bo Nix and this Denver offense that's going to be able to operate with a clean pocket, do whatever they want. And then you're going to have Cousins under pressure, under fire, which will inevitably lead to a mistake or two. So I don't show, the most. Look, NFL market's pretty efficient this time of the year. I don't show a ton of value from a power ratings perspective in this, but anything under a field goal I like because of the matchup. Surtain can take away London. This Denver defense will get pressure. Atlanta just won't. So I like Denver to get it done at home. Give me the Broncos -2.5.
I like it. I need one more win for that Broncos win total to go over 5.5. And also the Panthers are still alive somehow. So feeling
Panthers
good about,
got a shot.
Yeah, I had the Giants under and the Panthers over. So all of a sudden with that unit game, I'm back. But
yeah, Panthers. The Panthers can. Man, we might have to. The Panthers have a. Watch the. You know what would be the funniest thing ever? Chiefs beat the Bills this week.
Yep.
Go to 10-0. You want to talk about a sleepy spot at Carolina for the Chiefs next week. Carolina off a bye. I could see it. Like the Chiefs don't really blow anybody out. They play with their food every week. But the Panthers, for those that bet that win total, they get the Cowboys at home, who are on quit watch and won't have Dak. So that could be a win that, and then they got the Falcons in the last game of the year. Maybe Falcons have the division wrapped up playing for nothing. So yeah, it's definitely got a shot.
All right. I'm feeling real good about it. But for my second pick of the week 11 Sunday 6-pack, the fourth overall, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings -5.5 against the Tennessee Titans. Your Tennessee Titans, Stuck. And this
Have they covered this year?
Yeah, they covered once. I believe they're 1-8 against the spread.
Oh, the Miami game.
Yeah, the Miami game. They blew them out. But so here's why I like Minnesota here, and this is would have been uncomfortable. You're laying essentially a touchdown on the road after the Vikings just sweatwalked through a pretty similar AFC South road matchup last week. But that's kind of partly why I like the Vikings in this spot. The Titans have been unlucky this year, but it doesn't really get much unluckier than the Vikings last week. I mean, this team put up
the two weirdest dogs to cover all year were last week, the Vikings and the Bucks, who got destroyed.
Yeah.
But somehow covered.
Yeah. So this is just me betting on positive reversion to the mean for a Minnesota Vikings team that has a couple of things going for it. First of all, last week, like I said, 402 yards on the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 turnovers, an interception in the end zone, an interception at the 2-yard line, and an interception inside the 30. And then you also settle for 4 short field goals. And, every single time down the field, this Vikings team was just going. Now they have TJ Hawkinson back. They their offense it's at full strength. Even Darisaw being out, you went out and got Cam Robinson. So this is all on Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to commit 3 turnovers in the worst possible place to commit them this week going against the Titans, who, their defense has decent metrics, but you look at who they've played, and when they played real offenses, 34 to Buffalo, 52 to Detroit. I know there was some special teams and other things involved, but still.
Well, their special
52.
teams is so bad. Like, they're going to give up.
Right.
That's what cost them the cover last week.
And you can give up 27 to the Chargers. You had a backdoor just to get it to 10 late. You gave up 30 to the Malik Willis Packers as well. So, this defense, I'm not really scared of it. No one's like, you look at the secondary, and I mean, what, Baker? I mean, who's covering these guys for these Minnesota receivers? And Tennessee's below average in pressure rate. So, Sam Darnold should be better this week. But then you turn it around, and I think Minnesota, even if they do, kind of sleepwalk through this again, they're going to have some margin for error here, because
how's Tennessee moving it?
And and what is Will Levis? Remember, we got Will Levis back.
And Will Levis against the blitz,
against the number one blitz and number one pressure team. Will Levis, PFF grade against the blitz, 28.4, last of 39 qualified quarterbacks. Will Levis, PFF grade against pressure, 27.5, last among 38 qualified quarterbacks. Yeah. Will Levis, passer rating, clean, 92.1, pressure, 47. Essentially cuts in half under pressure. Same thing when he's blitzed, goes from 89 to a 48. So this has been a spot that Will Levis really hasn't seen yet. They complimenting him last week. Oh, yeah, I thought he took better care of the ball. He did some good things. Well, yeah, because the Chargers are 31st in pressure rate. They're a good defense, but they just drop back into zones and kind of, zone you to death, for lack of a better term. This Viking defense will drop back into zones, but they're going to confuse the hell out of Will Levis, because they're also going to get pressure. And this Tennessee offensive line, not very good. So I think that this is kind of a spot where, people probably don't want to touch it, because look what Minnesota did last week. And even the week before, they should have beat the Colts by a lot more. I think there was another interception in the end zone, a couple missed field goals. So Minnesota's been running.
Colts had a pick six too.
Yeah. So Minnesota's been running pretty unlucky these last 2 weeks. They put up over 400 yards of offense each of the last 2 weeks. They won by 8 and they won by 5. So I think that this is the week where it breaks open. I think they're probably the odds-on favorite to get a defensive score in this one, should get a ton of sacks, and their offense can't possibly be as bad as it was last week, because they're moving the football, and I think they're going to do that again. So give me the Vikings -5.5, like it at -6.2. I don't think this is going to be particularly close, so I'm kind of betting on a blowout here, but like the Vikings in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary handicap here is just how's Levis going to operate behind this offensive line against this pressure. And it's not like they can lean on the run game, because you can't really run on Minnesota. So, yeah, he's going to be in a lot of known passing situations, and that's probably going to lead to mistakes, which in turn could lead to this game getting very ugly. All right, for my third pick and the 5th overall, the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks +6.5. Haven't bet this game yet. Doesn't matter for the contest, but I'm waiting to see if it gets to 7. It's sitting right at 6.5. I'm taking a bit of a leap of faith here. Now, there is an element of the 49ers that does scare me. Like, they've been, like, they kind of have this Vikings thing, right? Like, they've been dominating some teams, and then the scoreboard doesn't reflect it. They've also gone from, like, the best team in the red zone to the worst. So, like, they have some positive regression coming their way. But I just can't get to this number. We just talked about how home field is, for this season is under 1 on average. For divisional games, it's even less historically. The 49ers were 3.5 point favorites in Seattle a few weeks back in a horrendous spot for the Seahawks. Like they had all that travel and like it was the Monday night game, the short week back home, then the short week on Thursday night. They also were without 3 defensive starters, including Reek Woolen. They had issues along the offensive line, specifically at right tackle. They were just decimated and they were exhausted and beat up. Now, this is a great spot for them on paper. And we've adjusted the line 3 points the other direction. Can't get there. This is an all-in, all-out effort from the Seahawks coming off of a bye. Meanwhile, San Francisco coming back across country after playing in Tampa. Seattle just activated Abe Lucas off the IR. I anticipate he will start, which means he won't, but I assume he's going to start at right tackle. That's big. They've had so many injuries there. They've had at times just turnstiles there, and it's just really hurt their offense across the board. And their defense should be much healthier than it was the first time around. I also think the bye for this team in particular is going to be super valuable. You had a first-time head coach, first-time NFL offensive coordinator, and I actually respect both of them and value both of them pretty highly. So I think, hey, let's take a look at what we needed to work on through the first half of the season. Let's make some adjustments. And this is a defense that I think McDonald was basically tailoring and trying to tinker with to get to a point where it can match up in the best way possible with the 49ers. So I expect them to have a really good game plan here. I expect the offense to operate much more efficiently with DK Metcalf, who, again, I assume is going to play. Am I wrong there?
No, he sounded like he'll be back after the bye. I mean,
I can't
didn't see a practice report, but yeah, they sounded like he was going to be back after the bye. That's why they held him out.
I mean, he's limited today.
Okay. Yeah.
So he said he doesn't know yet. Be limited in practice, possibly make his return. Man, these injuries. So I think he's going to play. That would be big. He's missed the last couple games. He still leads the NFL in deep targets. He opens up everything underneath. He's obviously big. So I'm going to wait on his status. I'm taking it regardless for the contest. This is why it's my third pick. If he's ruled out, I will get 7. In which case, if not, if he's ruled in, maybe it goes to 6, and I'll bet it will try to beat that move. But I just think you get a really good effort from which should be a much healthier Seattle team. Definitely on defense. Should get your right tackle back. Potentially get Metcalf back. Coming off of a bye. And the San Francisco team, they're just, every week, they just mess up. Some of their special teams are a mess. The red zone is just variance, I think. But Christian McCaffrey came back, didn't have the same burst, didn't have the same cutting ability. He helps in the passing game more than anything. But I think this is too many points for Seattle in a desperation spot off the bye.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those. I agree. San Francisco betting against San Francisco is scary, but it tends to work out more often than not. It's just one of these teams. Like one of these days, they're gonna get their stuff together. But like it's a division game, a lot of points, so I don't mind it at all. I mean, we saw San Francisco blow the lead to the Rams. We saw them blow the lead to the Cardinals. It's like they have the talent to blow a lot of people out and go on one of those runs, but who knows? I mean, maybe Moody's just not fully healthy either, so that could become an issue too. I mean, he was what, 3 of 6 or something? Yeah, I think 3 of 6.
Yeah, it's also just you rarely see a team coming off a bye after back-to-back losses at home. And by the way, the last loss they should have won. They should have beat the Rams. That rarely happens, but that is like the ultimate focus spot. Going on the road after the bye, after back-to-back home losses, and it's not like you're out of the division race or the playoff race. It's only happened 18 times over the past in the wild card era. 12-5-1 against the spread. So I think it's a good spot to buy low in the Seahawks.
For my third and final pick in the sixth overall of the Week 11 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts +4 at the New York Jets. And this is ugly. This is probably an uncomfortable pick, even though the Jets have been in disarray, as have the Colts, going back to Anthony Richardson here. But a couple of things stand out for me in this matchup, which is why I like taking the points. Number one, when you look at the Colts defense, we talked last week, Stuck, about how they were getting healthier. They were looking better. Now, didn't fully show up against the Bills. They did make some plays against Josh Allen, held him to no touchdown passes, got 2 picks off of him. So, but he got that crazy Hail Mary prayer at the rollouts of Mac Hollins, just a crazy, great Josh Allen play that only he can do. But they play zone at a top 5 rate. Aaron Rodgers and this Jet offense, they've been really struggling against zone coverage. Aaron Rodgers just kind of goes underneath, takes the easy throw, but it really hasn't been that easy. They are 18th in yards per attempt against man, but 27th in the league against zone coverage, and nearly 2 adjusted yards per attempt worse against zone coverage. All of their metrics are among league worst, and it's even worse when you take Lazard out of the picture, who is still banged up. Tyron Smith probably out with a neck injury. That's not ideal either. Devontae Adams, he's just been completely inefficient. Really low yards after catch this year. So I don't think this Jet offense is going to be explosive in this spot against the Colts. That's just what they've been against zone defense all year. And then on the other side, you have the Jets 27th in run defense, DVOA. So
that's where Richardson back helps.
Taylor
becomes so much more efficient. That's all you got to do here is just run the ball on this Jets D.
Exactly. And I, talked about it last week. I ended up, I wanted to bet the Jets as well last week. And I told you, I was like, the one concern I have is that they just get completely out physicaled in the run game, and ended up staying off of it for that exact reason. And that's what happened. I think this Colts offense could do the same thing. Now, the one thing that gives me pause is not actually Richardson. It's their left tackle, Raymond. He missed practice today, or he's listed as a DNP, but it was just an estimated report for a walkthrough. So that's something to keep an eye on. If he's out, this line should go up. So you should get to at least 4.5 if he's out. But that is something to watch. But this Colts offensive line still very good. Jonathan Taylor has been very good all year, and this Jet team can't stop the run, and they've been bad, period, without Robert Saleh. So on defense, every aspect of their defense, every single level has been bad. So Anthony Richardson, at first glance, I was like, oh man, I kind of was expecting Flacco to go, but Anthony Richardson is 7-3 career against the spread. The Colts have covered in 4 of his 5 starts this season as well. So it's not, just because he can't complete passes, or actually, no, they're 5-1 as his starts. So his lack of completing passes hasn't actually hurt this team as much as you'd think. Now, a couple of his worst games, low completion percentage games, came against the Texans, who also held Josh Allen to 9 of 31. He also played a couple of snaps against the Steelers, played the Bears. So he's played some really tough defenses. This Jets defense, we thought it was going to be that. It's not. So this is actually one of the easier matchups he's faced. He can run. The Jets are in all sorts of disarray. Devontae Adams is listed as out of practice with a wrist and an illness. So, there could even be something going around the Jets. So that's something to kind of watch out for as well. But I just think this Colts defense is underrated and is going to be able to limit the explosives for the Jets. They've been doing a lot better against the run as well. So you're going to see a lot of dink and dunk. I don't think you're going to see much over the top for Garrett Wilson and those guys. And then on the other side of the ball, I think that the Colts can kind of do what the Cardinals did, which is out physical the Jets at the point of attack in the run game. And you do have like the homeless man's version of that offense because you got Richardson. He's no Kyler. He's going to throw a lot more incompletions, but Michael Pittman, full practice on Wednesday, or at least estimated. So he should be back as well. So I think this Colts team is still not going to be an easy out. And this Jets team really doesn't deserve to be favored by, even really a field goal against anyone, even mediocre at this point. So give me the Indianapolis Colts +4 at the New York Jets. Ugly.
Yeah, I don't have anything here. I can't figure out either of these teams. Every time I bet on the Colts, Pittman doesn't play when I think he's going to play. And then if I fade them, he ends up playing when I don't think he's going to play, for what it's worth. But it looks like he'll play this week, which should help. But I actually think Richardson, I don't know what the Colts are doing decision-wise, but with the quarterback decision. But I think Richardson playing this week helps from a matchup perspective because their rushing attack gets so much more efficient. That's how you want to attack this Jets defense. And where's this Jets team at mentally? I don't know. They look like they quit last week, and there's no direction. There's no identity. There's no leadership. It's a big mess, and like playing at home might work against them. Like if things go bad early, like you're going to get booze and Raymond would be helpful to play. When he went out last week, it led directly to that turnover when Goncalves got beat and Flacco got stripped. So it's definitely worth watching. But I think the Colts will be able to run the ball here, and this Jets team is just a mess. I would want no part of them as needing to win by margin. So, yeah, I don't hate it, but I just can't figure out either of these teams.
All right, that is going to do it for our Week 11 Sunday six-pack. Let's see, quarterbacks, you got Jameis, Bo Nix, Geno Smith. So pretty average mid quarterbacks, I'd say. I got Burrow, Darnold, and Richardson. So I'm all over the map there. Got a really good one. Got a guy who can't complete passes, and got a guy who could be super efficient and then throw the ball to the other team in the end zone. So we'll see how that works out. But Cleveland 1.5, Denver -2, Seattle +6.5 for Stuck, Cincy +1.5, Minnesota -5.5, Indy +4 for me. All right, time for our favorite total of the week. Last week, another good week for us totals wise. 2-0. Chicago, New England, never really a sweat. Dallas, Philly, a little bit of a sweat, but all worked out in the end. 34-6, under 42.5 there. Both of us are 7-3 each on totals this year. Stuck. You went first for the six-pack, so I'll go first here. I will go with Brown Saints under 44.5. And for me, this is just a high number given the fact that the Saints don't have receivers. And when I say they don't have receivers, I mean they really don't have receivers. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to be their number one, most likely. Their number two is either going to be Mason Tipton, who was a long shot to even make the team this preseason, or Cedric Wilson, who, I mean, he's had on his share of healthy scratches throughout the years. And then you got guys like Kevin Austin, Dante Pettis, Jermaine Jackson, who I don't even think has played a snap, but he's listed at receiver, more of a return man. So I think Taysom Hill ran the second most routes for the Saints last week. This Cleveland defense, they don't have Za'Darius, they don't have JOK, but they got their safeties. They got Denzel Ward. They got Myles Garrett. They still got a great coordinator. So
you're going to get pressure.
Yes, they're going to get pressure on Carr. So, yeah, this is a spot where I just don't think the Saints are going to do much offensively. And the Browns, I think they're going to lean into the run a little more. You know, they switched to try to go more of that Stefanski offense. They were running really kind of more pass-heavy scheme with Deshaun Watson most of the year. And then, you know, you ended up playing the Ravens and you got behind to the Chargers. So it's been pass-heavy pretty much the entire year. I think this is a spot where you could finally see them lean into Chubb. He's coming off a bye, so he should be the healthiest that he's been. So even if the Browns do get some scores I think more so on the ground, chew up some clock here. So just a lot, even though it's indoors, just a lot of points for, two teams that really aren't in, the top half of the league offensively. I mean, Cleveland has no Amari Cooper. Tillman has been playing well, but he's your number 2 receiver. And Saints have nobody. They're just running Taysom Hill and, a prayer. And Alvin Kamara has been great, but a lot less efficient, since early in the year, since those first couple of games. So, if they run the ball with him and keep it on the ground, I'm not too scared of it. So give me Brown Saints under 44.5.
I'm going to go with the Raiders Dolphins under 44.5. Pretty simple logic here. It's a weird spot just in general, this game. Dolphins coming off a short week from the West Coast. Raiders coming off of a bye. Pretty odd spot, but the Raiders have a new offensive coordinator, and Luke Getsy's no longer there. What I think is going to happen, at least this week, with Scott Turner taking over, is they're going to try to go more run heavy, and I'm not sure that's going to work. But
Dylan Lobby? Are we freeing Dylan Lobby? Is that what's going on?
Might be. And so I don't think it's going to work, but I think they're going to go more run heavy. And the Raiders defense, the Raiders offense is terrible. So I don't see them doing much here.
Getting Minshew again, too. It looked like it was going to be Ritter, but it is indeed going to be Minshew.
Yep. And the Raiders defense, their general principle and what they do a good job of doing is preventing explosive plays. So they'll at least make this Miami offense work for it. So, give me Miami, Vegas under 44.5.
I don't know how it's going to turn out with the new offensive coordinator. Might be completely different, but one thing I will point out is that the Raiders have been very good opening drive this year with their script. So it is a spot where if you like the under and the Raiders happen to get the ball first, or in their first drive they end up going down and scoring a touchdown, can look for a live under as well, because they tend to cool off in a big way after that. Now,
there might be like an element of surprise with the new coordinator, and it's 2 weeks, so the script could be good here. So I don't hate a live under look either.
All right, so try to keep it going with our 70% each on totals. Vegas, Miami, under 44.5 for Stuck. Should be some humidity, right? This is a humidity game.
I'll look at the updated
Miami this time of year.
Weather for Sunday. Yeah, humidity game.
And so love the humidity unders.
And some wind. You could get some winds too, which obviously would help the under.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some wind. And no weather for me. Cleveland, New Orleans under 44.5. I just think this New Orleans offense isn't going to do much against the Browns coming off a bye. So that'll do it for our favorite totals for week number 11. Now it's time for our favorite teasers of the week. All right. Nothing epitomizes the struggle this year than teasers, because I feel like usually we nail these, and we have not been doing well this year. I think we're 6-14 combined on teasers. So
I'm
not
usually
ideal.
65% historically. Yeah. Can't hit one to save my life this year.
On the pod, you gave out the Chiefs, but it ended up being 2.5. So got to mark it as L.
By the time most people listen to this, hopefully it should have been 7.5. So hopefully most people hit. But they only won by 2. For this week, I'm going to go with 2 picks we already discussed: Bengals and Browns up over a touchdown. 2 sides I like, with totals that are sitting under 48, which is what I look for. Bengals, Browns, plus 7.5 each.
I'm going to go with 2 teams who I'm on par with the market, but teasing them up, they just voodoo cover. I mean, they'll probably voodoo cover anyway, but couldn't bring myself to put them in a 6-pack just based on a trend or anything like that. And that's the Kansas City Chiefs up to 8.5 and the Steelers up to 9. So we know the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes as a dog almost never doesn't cover outright.
12-1-1 against the spread.
Yep.
As an underdog.
92%.
92%. And they have obviously covered as the teaser leg in all 14 of those games. The one game they lost as a dog, interestingly enough, was when they were plus 2.5 at home against the Bills 2 years ago. And they lost by 4. And yeah, so yeah, I don't mind that teaser at all. I guess those are 2 of the marquee games, so we should probably talk about them. I had this game circled for the Bills, and I was like, the Bills are winning this game. I don't care about the Mahomes as a dog stat. I bet against them against the 49ers. I mean, look, you look at this Chiefs. I mean, this can't last forever. I mean, this team is. I mean, and if you look, I think that their defense is overrated, especially on the back end. It can be attacked. And if you look back, like Cincy moved the ball on them at will, weren't even at full strength. Atlanta was moving the ball on them, then lost 2 offensive linemen. You know, the Chargers banged up. The Saints banged up. The 49ers lose all of their weapons. You know, then you play Vegas, who actually moved the ball some. You play Tampa Bay without their 2 receivers. They move the ball on you, get the 24. And then you should have lost to Denver. I mean, they've been so fortunate. It's pretty insane. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games by 1 possession. Easily could have 2 to 3 more losses. Now, I do think, Milano just got activated off IR. He's not going to play this week. But the way that the Chiefs want to attack you with just like dink and dunk and convert third downs because Mahomes is the GOAT, and over the middle of the field, and you can do that against the Bills. But I think Allen and this Bills offense can exploit this really untested Chiefs secondary. And whenever they've been tested by anyone like competent that's fully healthy, it hasn't looked great. I actually think that their run defense is really significantly improved. The problem is, and why I didn't include the Bills in the 6-pack, is Kincaid going to play? He's huge in this matchup. I don't know. Is Amari Cooper going to play?
He's probably going to play. He's been limited.
But he has a cast. Is he going to play with a cast?
Yeah. So he might not be 100%.
Going to catch those Allen Rockets. And then what's his name's not going to play? Who was
Coleman's not going to play. So Coleman you're depleted at pass catcher.
And then Spencer Brown might not play.
Yep.
You're starting right tackle. His knee or ankle is swollen up. He doesn't know if he's going to play. Because at full strength, this offensive line can protect. You have Allen's legs also. And then if you have all your weapons, I think Allen would make enough plays to win this game at home against just a luck-riddled Chiefs team that their offense is just limited. Let's call it what it is. I mean, but with all those injuries, I can't get there right now. So I think the Bills win. They find a way somehow, but I need to see the final injury report. It sucks. I wish this happens to the Chiefs every week. Like everyone is always hurt, and then they'll win by 1. So, and then guess what? The Chiefs have the next 2 weeks after this, the Panthers and the Raiders. So, and then they're home against the Chargers, then the Browns, home against the Texans. Give me a healthy Texans team against them that week. I think win this game.
What, so for the make Mahomes throw 6 interceptions and blow the game late, like running 3 straight times every time.
So yeah, I think Bills win, but can't get there. And then in regards to Steelers,
wait, let me just follow up on, because I I totally agree. I think a healthy Bills team, they would actually be the side, but we talked about this. Home field isn't worth much. And with the Bills in this state, I can't really power rate them better than the Chiefs. So you 2.5 is out, 2.5s are out there. I don't think it gets to 3. You could pay for it. But
it would get bought.
It wouldn't. Yeah, you're not going to get to 3. However, yeah. So home field still isn't worth much, even in a great environment like Buffalo. And you can't really say the Bills are better than the Chiefs, especially in this state. So 2.5, I still show value on the Chiefs.
And I laid 1 with the 49ers at home.
Yeah.
Against the Chiefs when I thought they were going to be healthy. And then obviously everyone got hurt in the first quarter. That line went up to 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers at full strength, I have power rated higher than the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills now are sitting at 2.5 and we know about some of these injuries already.
Yeah. Yeah. This just feels like a Chiefs voodoo spot. By the way.
Which is every week.
The Chiefs haven't lost since last Christmas.
Yep.
They are 15 straight. So if they get this one and then they get Carolina would be 17-0 in a row.
I'm calling my shot. If the Chiefs win this week and they're losing at Carolina.
Oh man, that'll be a fun 6-pack.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I am. I would like all things considered, I would make the Bills about -1 here, and you're giving me 2.5. So the play is the Chiefs. It's no real other way to say it, but I think that's why I want to tease that up. But all right, now Ravens Steelers +3 is the line, 48 is the total. And I know you always give us those stats. What is it? Every single one of these games is decided by less than like 6 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty crazy. That since Harbaugh got to Baltimore in 2008, favorites of 3 or more.
Mm-hmm.
In Ravens Steelers games are 2-18-3 against the spread, 10%. Harbaugh himself is 0-10-2 against the spread when favored by at least a field goal against the Steelers, 0-10. And 26 of the 32 regular season meetings have been decided by 1 possession, more than half by a field goal or less. Average score in their 32 meetings, 19.6 to 19.2. They are separated by 12 points over those 32 meetings. So like the plays, you just take the points, especially at 3.5. And if Kyle Hamilton is out, he didn't practice today. That's bad for the Ravens defense. He's just an important piece, allows him to do so much. I mean, he's so versatile.
One of the best players in the NFL. Point blank period.
So now Highsmith is out too for the Steelers.
Because that was part of my cap last week, in taking the Steelers against Jaden Daniels, was that just looking at how their defense was able to corral Lamar Jackson. And they only face him like once a year. He seems to miss like at least one of those matchups every year. But Highsmith out is a big deal. I mean, he was flying off the edge last week. So that's significant as well.
Yeah, because this total is really high for a Ravens Steelers game. So I think the play, and if I had to do it, just from experience, I just know to take the points. But they do it. They did add Preston Smith, which maybe helps a little bit, but just not having Highsmith and Watt. Is Herbig a go? He's
Herbig's a go. He's full practice off the injury report completely.
Okay, so that helps. The Steelers always have a good game plan for these mobile quarterbacks, and Jackson in particular. By the way, I thought you were going to lose that Steelers bet on the fumble at the 1.
Bro, it would have been on point, like for some of the way it's been going for me this year. But you clowned me when I mentioned Mike Williams on the pod.
I know that. I was laughing. I was laughing when he scored.
I totally forgot about that.
I was like, was that Mike Williams?
Like, is he?
Yeah, that was amazing.
That's how it goes in the NFL, man. You think you know? Yeah, no idea, because I wouldn't have predicted that would have been the way I would have won either. But
Lamar is he missed a lot of games against the Steelers. He's 1-3 against the Steelers, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 5 fumbles,
Mm-hmm.
59% completion rate, 66 passer rating, sacked 20 times in those 4 games. So, yeah, the Steelers know how to defend him. There's just a ton of familiarity between these teams. Now, the Ravens the pass defense has been bad, but number one, they've been unlucky. Like they should have like 5 more picks if you just look at like their pass defense numbers. And they've played like every
Everyone.
top quarterback in the league. They played Mahomes.
Burrow
They played
twice.
They played Burrow twice. They played the Cowboys when they were healthy. They played Allen. They played the Washington offense, Tampa when they were healthy. Um, they even got like Cleveland in their first game with Watson and this new offense. Like so,
Winston.
where they've really struggled, Winston, sorry. Where they've really struggled is with their safeties and like there's been miscommunication deep in the middle of the field. But that's not really where the Steelers throw the ball. I
Nope.
mean, how
Russ.
many
It's not Russ.
Russ is not. He just throws moon balls down the sideline. So I actually think like the Ravens defense will be okay here. Because their run defense is really good. And the Steelers defense knows how to defend Lamar. Divisional game for first place. A lot of familiarity. Like this total is pretty high. I mean, the Ravens are like auto overs this
Yep.
year, but I think this is the type of game that ends 23-20. So I would look at the under there, but waiting on Kyle Hamilton. It sucks that Hamilton and Highsmith weren't playing, which definitely hurts. But yeah, I think at 48.5, you got to look at the under. If anyone wants to just take the 3.5, I wouldn't blame you. Like this is just how these games go.
Yeah. I mean, it's three. It's mostly three in the market. Let's see. I don't think there's even. I think the 3.5 might be gone right now. Let's see. Oh well, you could. I guess you could get a juiced up one because they're. I'm seeing some +3, +100, which means the 3.5 would be what -120, -125.
-120, -125 ish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. I think three is the right number.
Yeah, I make it three. Tough.
Yeah. I'm
Like
3.1.
yeah, so so it's like I said, that's why I like it as a tease because we know what Mike Tomlin does as an underdog. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Stuck already
He's
gave you the numbers, for this.
26-1 against the spread as a home dog.
Yep.
26-3, excuse me, 77% as a home dog.
Ridiculous. Yeah, and that's just one of many trends. I mean, you could break down him being
The
a
unders
dog
too. When he's a
any
home
which
dog, the
way.
unders are also really good, right?
Yeah, this is
You always
let's
talk about
see.
that.
The Tomlin it's usually no, I think it's usually on the road with the unders. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's on the road for the unders. But I mean I like the under in this matchup too. It does look high, but I would probably just half a unit on each, like the Steelers +3 or 5 to 3.5, half on the under because it's just one of those things. It's like clockwork, but that's the tease for me because
I'm gonna
like
bet
I said,
exact score 23-20 both teams too.
that
Just throw some
yeah,
pesos on it since I said it out loud.
I like it. But yeah, that's the two of the most automatic underdog spots. So get an extra
The other thing
six.
I would mention is this is one of the hardest stadiums. This is one of the hardest stadiums to kick in the NFL because of the swirling winds. So in a game that could be close, right now, you give the edge to the Steelers in the kicking department
Crazy.
with Boswell.
Oh, kickers. Oh, kickers. All right. That's our teasers. Cincinnati +7.5, Cleveland +7.5 for Stuck. KC +8.5, Pittsburgh +9 for me. Now it's time for a money line underdog parlay. All right, week 11, we both hit 3. So nothing crazy, but we've got a few each. Where are you going with your dog for this week?
Yeah, we got a 10-1 in there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is
That's
paid for the
basically the
first.
winning. Yeah, winning the first 10 weeks.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Bears against the Packers. Now this line is crazy. It's way too high. But can you play the Bears? I, I don't know. I consider them for the six pack.
Yeah.
I'd need to see who's playing on the offensive line. Um,
Both of the I think Wright and Jones
yeah, we're
are going to be back at
limited.
practice. Yeah,
Jenkins
so
was out.
that's but then they also lost Taven Jenkins and new OC. So yeah,
Yeah,
who knows?
there's a ton of uncertainty, which is why they're in the money line dog section. I also don't know if they've quit. There's so much bad, like the way that they've looked the past 2 weeks, all of the locker room drama that I'm reading about behind the scenes and hearing from people that are close to the team. It's not great. But usually in the NFL, like teams don't quit, and this is their rival. Like I expect them to at least show up, but it's been a mess. Like they can't. I mean, Caleb Williams is holding on to the ball too long. They can't block. Um, But hey, you want to talk about a buy low spot. And then there's increased variance. You get a new offensive coordinator, should be a bit healthier. Now, it's not historically, this is a good spot for the Packers in that LaFleur has been very good off of extended rest. Favorites off of bye have also been really good.
Especially
But
on the road.
yeah, especially on the road. And believe it or not, I mean, Packers off a bye on the road as a favorite. Those teams 76, 51, and 4, 60% over the past 20 years.
Yep.
The Packers are 10-0 straight up and against the spread against the Bears in their last 10 meetings. Can you believe that? 10-0?
Yeah, I can believe it. I can believe it. I mean, who have the Bears? Like, look at the Bears.
No, but just they didn't get one.
Even this
They
is the
didn't get
Bears.
one.
This is what they're bearing. The Bears bear. The Bears will bear.
Yeah, I've been on the variance here, and this line is just too high. Like on the surface, like I can't get to this number. The Packers were laying 4.5 in Jacksonville, and I bet the Jags. So, I mean, how bad is it for the Bears? I don't know. Maybe I just haven't found the bottom. But with the variance, expect them to show up here against their rival. I'm going to take the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that like it screams out at me too. Couple things I think work. So there's a couple things I think work on in each side's favor. One thing you didn't mention variance wise, Jordan Love gives you 3 points every game. Too. Jordan Love gives you 3 points every game, pretty much.
Yeah, but and their defense has been very lucky in the turnover department.
It has, however, it is still a quality defense, but very zone heavy. Packers, Jordan Love, pretty much the most explosive team in the league against zone coverage. Usually, you're explosive against man coverage, and then zone, you have to kind of be a little more methodical and whatnot. Packers, their efficiency numbers against zone. I mean, they turn it over, but the yards in attempt, the yards of completion, like they get after
Love takes those shots down the seams, and
they got all those.
He's not afraid to throw.
So this is one of those things that the weather could work in your favor for that, because it is another one of these. Maybe it's a little bit of a weather game.
It looked worse. It looked worse earlier this week. There's going to be some wind though. But it's not going to be like terrible as of now. But that could change.
Yeah. So that. But the thing about it is, Taylor, like I liked the Bears at one point this year, and I haven't been touching them because it's like they had so many issues coaching wise, and it was like the minute they would plug one leak, another leak would show. But the real problem is that
I somehow faded them early, and now did
now you're like tempted
NFL year, and they would just cover as favorites somehow.
Yeah. I think I had him in one or two of those spots, but I haven't been touching him because the real issue for me is that Caleb Williams against any kind of pressure just looks like a chicken with his head cut off. Like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like I some of these quarterbacks just like I've never seen pressure have an effect on like young quarterbacks. Like even like look at CJ Stroud sometimes even. Like some of these quarterbacks have so just Jekyll and Hyde. It's not all pressure, but it's just like they get so, it's like they're in their heads. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, but like Caleb Williams is the worst when there's just guys around him. He'll run around in circles. He has no idea where he's going. He'll throw inaccurate passes. I just can't trust Caleb Williams even with these receivers. And I mean, he needs the offensive line back, but the Packers off a bye, well-coached team tend to have good schemes and good game plans, especially, now that Barry's gone on defense. Don't love it personally, but I think if you're going to take him, just take him as a dog, because if like 5.5, and now it's under 6 too. I think it's 5.5. So I think if it could get away from the Bears if they lose it, but if they win it, you get some extra juice here. Okay. I'm gonna go with a lot more boring pick, but I mentioned I did like your Cleveland pick, so I'm gonna go with them as a money line dog. Even money. Jameis is a dog, always does well, so try to get it before, I could see it flipping from -1 Saints to -1 Cleveland, but you parlay those two together, plus 210 for Chicago, even money for the Browns, you get plus 520, so still a pretty nice parlay thanks to the Bears. Hopefully they come through for us. Now it's time for the best of the rest, which are the games we did not discuss in any other segment. All right, so it's just Rams, Patriots, and Jags lines, right?
Yep.
All right. All right, first up, we got Rams at Patriots. The Patriots are getting 4.5 at home. The total 43.5. This one, I could see a letdown for the Rams. They're another team that's really hard to peg. I mean, their red zone issues just seem to never end. Like I don't know what it is. Like they could score an over the top like touchdown in overtime, but they can't just score normal points in the red zone, normal touchdowns in the red zone in the course.
Yeah,
of
when we fade them
regulation.
with Seattle, they score from Seattle's red zone.
Right?
Pick six.
They're better. It's hard to get a read on the Rams. I thought because of Kupp and Nakua being back, Kyron's always great. Their O-line is even getting healthier. Like I thought they could handle that Miami team, and they 5 field goals. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, I actually like the Rams here. I consider them for the 6-pack. Their offensive line struggled when they got a couple guys back, but I think, with one game under their belts, they'll look better this week. This Patriots defense still isn't any good. Yeah, they had 9 sacks last week. It was the Bear. I mean, Caleb Williams just looked like a deer in the headlights, and they had 3 or 4 offensive linemen out. Like this Rams defense is playing better. They can get pressure. They should be able to eat this New England offensive line alive and get to May, who I think will make a couple of mistakes. McVay, it's not a great spot, short week going across the country, but McVay's been amazing on short rest. He's 10-1 against the spread in his last 11, 14-6 overall. And from a spot perspective, teams off of a home loss as a favorite that are now favored by a field goal or more on the road, 95, 68, and 7 against the spread since 2003, 58%, 29, 15, and 2 since 2020. So I think the red zone issues are bizarre, but I think a lot of that is variance. I think the season long had to do with the injuries, but now with Kupp and Nakua back and Williams, I mean, we have a lot of data that says this offense is elite when everyone is healthy. So I think that there's probably some positive variance coming in that department. This is a Patriots team that we've seen get blown out a few times this year. This is like a desperation spot for the Rams after a home loss. I think they're focused. I think they'll have a much better game plan. Coaching edge, although they still can't manage a game or a clock, but I like the Rams here, -4.5.
Yeah, I see the case. They still make me a little nervous just because I just think that they're hard to read. They're high variance. And this Patriot team is not static. Like I would say again, better. They faced the Titans, the Jets, and the Bears and the Jaguars. So that could be a lot of it. But I do think May will be feisty. Like he'll throw them out of some games.
He'll make a
couple
probably, explosive plays.
He'll probably throw them back into some mistakes too. Yeah. So it's not my favorite spot to lay 4.5. Because I got rather more of like a potential domination spot, but I could see the Rams. Like at some point, you figure that red zone variance has to regress. Let's see, what are they in the red zone? They got to be 30th. Yeah, they're like this is not the 30th best offense. Like they have to get it going. And the coaching is like the quarterback is good. It's a veteran. The coach is good. I kind of inexplicable. But let's go to the final game, which is Jags at Lions. Lions laying 13.5 at home. The total is 47. Mac Jones looks like he's going to get another start. Trevor Lawrence is going to miss this one as well. I think if we were like live on air when we saw something weird going on with Trevor Lawrence last week. And of course he ends up missing and they still cover. Injuries, just weird season. But my gut tells me the Lions cover, but I'm not laying this. Huh?
25%, Jags 25% success rate last week and covered.
Yeah. They're like my gut tells me the Lions cover this, but
lowest
this number
of the season by any team.
Crazy. Like
yeah, I lean. I can't get to this number. But,
the number is too high, but like it's one of those numbers where it's
first of all, Detroit just always covers, except last week. I actually beat Detroit. I should get 2 wins for that.
Yeah,
you should get 4 points for that. I got to come back somehow. And yeah, I mean, like Detroit defense is playing better than I expected without Hutchinson. And like, what's Mac Jones going to do? There's also injuries. Like they have injuries on the offensive line. Is Brian Thomas a full go? Does it even matter?
He's getting back to it. Like you kind of expect him playing below his norm until week 12-ish. So he's still not 100%. But he's better. Gabe Davis is a little better too. So it's
how's Jacksonville stopping Detroit?
It worries me because they're not physical. Like Jacksonville's just not this type of physical. Like even with, you know what I mean? Like that's what worries me about, 13.5 in certain spots. It's like, okay, this team could just kind of get backdoor this and that. It's like, this is one of those spots where Detroit could it's like the Titans. They could gain like 200 yards of offense and it's like 40-3 or something. So
Mac Jones got a couple turnovers and I just don't like pure pass.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to bet this game, I would just bet the Lions. What are they, 41-15 against the spread now? 40
and 16.
40 and 16. Yeah. So, and now
I'm 1-0 against Dan Campbell in my last one.
There you go. Better than most. But yeah, that's about all we have for this one. I see a lot of money coming in on the under, which is kind of odd to me. I don't trust it. All right, that's going to be a wrap for us. Week number 11, Action Network podcast. You can hear more of me every week with my guy Sean Kerner. Very sharp projector, props, fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex podcast. You can also hear Stuck talking college football over on the Big Bets on Campus podcast, which is really a dope college football podcast. So be sure to check that out. Stuck is on X at Stuckey2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next week, let's get this money.